So if you're like, hey, what's different in the background? We have a microwave now. Yeah, it's 85 degrees outside, but I'm a white millennial woman, so now that it's technically fall, I have to put pumpkin spice directly into my bloodstream. So let's make pumpkin spice cookies. This is gonna be another one of those videos where I take a recipe that isn't diet and put in low carb substitutions.
We're going to kick off with 2.5 cups of flour. The low carb version uses a mix of almond flour and coconut flour, 2 teaspoons of cornstarch, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon cream of tartar, 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and then whisk that all together to get it evenly combined. Next we'll add in our spices, and we'll start with 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, 1/8 teaspoon ground cloves. You can honestly add a little more. 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, which I didn't have, so I used allspice. Get that evenly combined before we move on to our wet ingredients. As always, if you want to try out the original recipe for yourself, it'll be down in the description box. Alright, we're going to set those aside and move to a clean bowl for 3/4 cup of butter. I used plant butter. 3/4 cup brown sugar or a brown sugar and erythritol blend. 1/2 cup of sugar or erythritol. And then get in there and beat that till it's fluffy. Add 1 egg. 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 1/2 cup of canned pumpkin. Make sure you use canned pumpkin puree and not pumpkin pie filling. Alright, we're going to combine that with our dry ingredients about 1/3 at a time. By the time it's all mixed together, you should have a solid dough that's still a little wet. I've talked on this channel before about how substitutes can't be expected to be perfect replacements, and you can see that the texture of my 2 doughs is pretty different at this point. Almond flour is also a lot more calories than wheat flour, so in the end we're going to get 2 cookies that are calorically almost the same, but have wildly different macros. Once we've got it all combined, we're going to cover it and refrigerate it. You can leave it to chill for as little as 2 hours or up to a day. I did mine overnight both times. And here comes every kid's favorite part of baking cookies. We're going to shape this into balls. Both of these doughs should make about 30 cookies each, and you should do about 15 cookies per tray. Once you've got all your balls made, take a blend of either erythritol or sugar, depending on the cookies you're making. And the recipe said to use cinnamon for this, but I wanted a little more fall taste, so I mixed it with apple pie spice instead. Once they're all coated, you'll get them in the oven at 350 for 15 minutes for the low carb and only 10 minutes for the full carb since they have sugar. Now, since the low carb doesn't have sugar, you do need to press them flat in order to not wind up with a pumpkin loaf ball. And out of personal preference, I like to sprinkle the remaining apple pie spice mix on top of my cookies. So our low carb version came out to net 4 carbs and the full carb came out to net 16 carbs.
The regular ones are kind of pale, and then these are kind of dark. Okay. The full carb version totally melts in your mouth. It's got that nice buttery sensation when you bite down. It's a good soft cookie. The low carb version, the low carb one's a little bready, but it's still really good. I'm not gonna lie, I made these yesterday. I've eaten like 7 of them already. Filming in here during the middle of the day is weird because there's a maneki neko in the corner that's doing this all day long, and it sounds like that Edgar Allan Poe story. So these are 16 net carbs and these are 4. I'm definitely gonna keep making the low carb version throughout the rest of the fall. That's it for this episode of Food Court. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and you can find more low carb content in the Food Court playlist.